Well, let's look at the big stories in the world of business. The Department of Petroleum Resources seals off 4 liquefied petroleum gas plants over non-compliant and illegal operations in Lagos. That follows the appointment of a substantive director for the department. The Federation Accounts Committee allocates 635.8 billion naira to the 3 tiers of government as revenue for the month of November. Crude oil prices continue to enjoy average jumps at trade centers following increased energy demand by Chinese firms. On the show today, a lot will be looked at and we'll focus on how budgetary allocation affects trading at the exchange, confidence in the market. What do we expect as we move to 2020? Welcome, it's your Business Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari presided over this week's Federal Executive Council meeting. That's the last for the year. But before Mr. President got down to the business of the day, he administered an oath of office for 9 newly appointed federal permanent secretaries that will be deployed to various ministries. Council meeting was a moment of stock-taking for cabinet ministers who were sworn in less than 4 months ago. They presented progress reports of their stewardship in the last 100 days, clearly stating how they have been able to meet the mandate handed to them, over to them by President Buhari. Ministers of Finance, Petroleum and Transportation talked about their achievements for improved revenue to the signing of the Deep Offshore Amendment Act and revamping of rail transportation in the country.
We came to report on our stewardship, and we reported to ESCO that we've achieved at least one of those mandate areas, which is the passage of the Deep Offshore Amendment Act. We also reported that work is ongoing on the PIB and that hopefully the PIB will be passed into law by June next year.
We did confirm to the President that we'll be bringing in a DMU, which is a diesel engine, for Abuja, Kaduna. It will be 8 coaches and 2 locomotives that will drive it. And it will reduce the pressure we have in Abuja, Kaduna. Itape Warri should be ready for commissioning between January and April, depending when the President is available to commission it.
In terms of revenue performance, the revenue performance prorated to third quarter of 2019 is 4.25 trillion, and that represents a performance of 81%. That is to third quarter, so it's 9 months prorated, not full year. The GDP growth that we planned for 2019 was 3.5%, and the third quarter GDP performance, you all know, was reported as 2.28%.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Engineer Serki Awalu as the substantive director of the Department of Petroleum Resources. Mr. Awalu is a chemical engineer and joined the service of DPR in 1998 as a principal chemical engineer. He has attended various management and leadership courses and has been an integral part of the DPR's transformation team. Mr. Awalu is also a member of various professional bodies, amongst which the Institute of Chemical Engineers, the Nigerian Society of Engineers, and the Council of Registered Engineers. The Department of Petroleum Resources has sealed off 4 liquefied petroleum gas LPG plants over non-compliance and illegal operations in Lagos. 3 persons involved in the illegal business were also arrested by men of the Nigerian Securities and Civil Defense Corps who partnered with the department in the operations. We have details in this report.
Of Petroleum Resources is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring compliance to petroleum laws, regulations and guidelines in the oil and gas industry. As part of the department's effort to promote sanity and safety in the industry, regular monitoring and enforcement processes are embarked on to uphold safety in all ramifications. Following tips from residents of Shoki, Ikeja and Agege on the inherent dangers of operating illegal gas stations in residential areas, markets and other public places, the DPR team, in collaboration with security operatives, swung into action.
It's supposed to be a retail outlet, though it's not licensed, and because of where it is located, we cannot license it for retailing of cylinders. It is in a market, and we found out that he is decanting, that's transferring gas from cylinders to cylinders, which is risky. The implication of it is when there's leakage in a place like this, because gas is heavier than air, it seeps to the ground. And because it's close to the road, the vehicles passing can ignite the gas that leaks from here.
The 4 stations sealed violated the laws of the DPR, one located inside the market, another close to a school complex, one on the roadside, and the last one sited in an unsafe environment.
People in this market, it's a public place, they don't have restrictions, so people can be smoking, they can be doing anything, and any fire here will raise this place down, make people die. And what we tend to see in accidents like this is, because people want to save their shop, they tend to want to fight the fire. Exposure to this gas tends to lead to cold burn, which tends to kill more. So that's why we're sealing this facility, so that he'll look for somewhere more appropriate that complies with safety requirements.
The DPR appeals to Nigerians to report any illegal gas or fuel station located at unapproved areas around their vicinity. According to them, this will help reduce issues of gas explosion, loss of lives and property.
Well, it's no more news that Nigeria now has an approved spending plan for the year 2020. This follows the signing of the appropriation bill into law by President Muhammadu Buhari. The president is excited that in his lifetime of his administration, national budget has been returned to the January-December cycle. But he also says he may have to return to the National Assembly with a request for environment because of certain adjustments the lawmakers made to the budget. The signing was witnessed by Vice President, President of the Senate, and Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The 2020 budget passed by the National Assembly provides the aggregate expenditures of 10.594 trillion naira, an increase of 263.95 billion naira over the executive proposal that was submitted in October 2019. We have examined the adjustments and may revert to the National Assembly with a request for amendment or other relevant amendments.
I think the tragedy of the past, and could be the tragedy of tomorrow, is for us not to be able to get the revenues. This is important. But this time around, we have fixed or we have passed the finance bill. The finance bill will provide a lot more revenues to government. We have also passed the amendment to the production sharing contract. That will also provide a lot more revenues.
There's a synergy between the executive and the legislature like never before. Many want to criticize that, many, because you have a lot of naysayers. Many will say you're rubber stamps, but we believe, and we believe that we will continue to do what we need to do as a legislature, and the executive will do what they're doing. And the harmony that is between the two, guess who benefits?
Let's move to the market, downtown Lagos, where we have a stockbroker, Dele Sanusi, is joining us to look at how this affects trading at the exchange. Hello, Dele. It's great to have you join us on the show.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Mr. Dele, you know that it's already law, 2020 budget. The president has signed it into law first. What is your immediate reaction to this? Many believe that this would actually improve confidence of investors. How do you think this will impact on the market?
Yes, the budget has now been signed, and looking at it, the structure of the budget is very, very key. If you look at the proportion of the capital expenditure is far, far low compared to the recurrent expenditure. And not only that one, if you look at the debt servicing, the amount, the percentage they are using about more than 2 trillion to service the debt. And also the budget also is being, is of deficit side. So looking at it, it may bring out a kind of a little bit a kind of positive in the economy of the market, because we are, in the country rather, because we are going to see some of the projects, being completed, and also that one also should translate to the good economy indicators.
Okay, then let's look at some of the fundamentals here now, like projections for inflation, crude oil production, oil price, GDP growth. All of these figures, they're not looking very good. What are your expectations moving ahead? Yeah, I'm talking about the fundamentals now, the GDP figures, inflation figures, and even the exchange rate pegged at 305 naira to $1. How realistic do you see all of this playing out?
Yes, all those indicators, all those fundamentals rather, they are very, very key. They are very, very key. If you look at inflation is high, then because the budget also is of the deficit side. You know that next year we are going to have some of our taxes coming on board, and in such a case, we look at the general economy. People may not really find it a kind of easy, because it's going to really affect them, because total the tax is going to be increased, and the inflation also is increasing, and the GDP, though our GDP is high, but it's not really, we are not really going to really see the effect. But as I've said before, that we are going to have the budget, the result we are going to see is going to be a kind of little increase in the improvement, because if you look at the proportion of the capital expenditure to the recurrence, is very, very low. So assuming it's of the other way side, we are going to see so many capital projects being completed, which is going to translate to the positive indicators, factors.
Okay, back to the trading floor, where you play a very active role. The market has not been able to sustain gains. It's all been up, down, up, down. Now, as we move on to the end of the year, a lot of goodies everyone expects from the exchange. What are you looking at? What are your projections as we move on?
Thank you. As you move on, if you look at the stock, the fundamental are still there. They are still okay. The fundamental is still okay, but there are so many things that affect the movement of the price on the floor. The policy, the budget, and there's so many things, they are the ones that really affect. If you look at our policy, and if you look at, the season also that we are, that it's really affecting. This is the kind of festive period that many parents, they need cash. So we can see some of the people coming to come and sell down so that they can get cash. And as a result of that, we are still going to see a kind of negative reaction to the positive market. Not only that one, but we are still expecting a kind of a rally before the end of the year, because most of the companies want to close their record. Close their book very high. So we are going to see some of them also, coming, price going up, a little bit rally before the end of the year.
And many believe that a lot of positives might be coming to the exchange, coupled with the fact that the central bank is trying to move people away from trading government securities. Many are now looking at the equities side now. So many say there might be a lot of activities as we move to 2020. Dele, I don't know if you are a player there.
Yes, you are right. If you look at the if you look at the rate of the TB and the condition that the federal government have placed on it, many people, we are going to have a kind of excess fund that ought to flow into the equity market. So that one also is a kind of great expectation. Towards the next year, we are going to experience some of the fund flowing into the capital market, because they are being, there's a kind of caution on TB, on the fixed income security. So definitely we are going to have them, all this money being flowing back to the equity market. So we are going to have a kind of a rally.
Okay, Dele, before I let you go, now, Nigerians, some still have money in stock. They want to invest. They want to look at stocks. What kind of stocks do you think they should look at this time? I'll give you this opportunity. You're supposed to pay for this, but go ahead and tell people where they can invest some money.
As I've said before, I said all the stock they see have what? The fundamental are still good. I get what I'm saying now. And their balance sheet is always, you saw, you know, some of them are very fantastic. So for you to buy anything, you just need to contact a professional that is going to make a right decision for you.
Well, the banking used to be very attractive before, very liquid stocks. What are you talking about? That oil and gas?
Yes. You know, I'm here. I'm on here. I just try to be careful. And we are talking about banking sector. Banking sectors, they are still good. I get what I'm saying now. If you look at their EPS, compared to the last one, and their balance sheet is still okay. So just see a professional to decide to pick. To advise you on that area.
Dele Sanusi, thank you very much. It's really good to see you. Thank you for joining us on the show. Let's move on now. Well, let's tell you that earlier in January this year, the Federal Competitions and Consumer Protection Act was passed for the first time as a framework to address anti-competitive behavior in Nigeria, a problem for both consumers and other businesses. Director General of the Federal Competitions and Consumer Protection Commission, Babatunde Rukera, at a media party in Lagos says to consolidate on these efforts, the agency is set to collaborate with the media and consumer protection associations to ensure a stronger consequence management system and treat consumers' complaints more effectively across the country.
We also have a register of consumer protection associations that we meet with periodically and provide information to and just engage and support. The new law actually creates a statutory role for consumer protection associations and how they can even assist with redress. And we're looking to support that, as many associations that are looking in that direction. This is the most important piece of legislation.
The DG of the agency further charged individual companies across aviation, power, maritime, and other key sectors to develop complaint resolution mechanisms.
Companies must have complaint resolution systems that are stand-alone. And as they advertise their products, they must advertise on the product and in everything that this is the complaint resolution mechanism. This is how to access it. It must be truly accessible, and it must advise consumers of their rights. And so we're writing.
The Federal Accounts Committee allocated the sum of 635.82 billion naira to the 3 tiers of government as revenue for the month of November. The allocation represents a decrease of 66.23 billion naira when compared to 702.05 billion naira, which the committee shared in October. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Mahmoud Issa Tutsi, confirmed the distribution during the media briefing on the outcome of the committee's meeting. Issa Tutsi said that during the period, the statutory revenue generated was 491.87 billion naira, while value-added tax and foreign exchange equalization revenue was put at 53 billion naira. In addition, he said revenue that accrued from exchange gain was estimated at 785 million naira during the period. Given a breakdown of the allocation, he said after deducting the cost of collection of 16.27 billion naira to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the federal government received 267.8 billion naira. He added that state governments got 172.56 billion, local governments received 129.97 billion naira. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, says revenue performance prorated to third quarter of 2019 stands at 4.23 trillion naira. This, according to her, represents a performance of 81%, while the gross domestic product planned for 2019 was 33.5%, and third quarter GDP performance was reported at 2.28%. According to her, the federal government has so far released 1.2 trillion naira capital expenditure, representing a 50% capital performance for the 2019 fiscal year. The minister said that expenditure, the finance ministry had been able to release all that was required for personnel costs, while debt service was also on course. All right, it's time to go back to the trading floor where the real business is on. While my colleague Effiong Ekop is now joining us to take it down more to discuss what's been happening. Ekop, earlier I spoke to Dele Sanusi, and he was letting us understand that stocks are still attractive despite all of the negatives we see. I don't know if you told that line.
Yes, Tolu, this is even the period for you to enter the markets if you really want to do that. Indeed, the principles that we have here is that you come into the markets when the equities and the bonds markets are very low, so that when they begin to rise, you are in a position, to, make a quick profit on your investments. This day, we closed in the negative territory. It is the first this week, and it was MTN that, brought all that to the market. MTN, recorded huge loss on investments, approximating nearly 3%, and it drew some other big cap securities, even middle-level securities, and combined forces brought the market in the negative territory. If you bear me to list them, we had USC Property, then Honeywell Flour, and even USCN. They were all price losers. And so the index was forced down 0.03% this afternoon, contrary to expectation that we had in mid-trade that we are likely to, close in the positive territory. But that is not to, dampen the expectation of Santa Claus or price rally, which we think should happen before the end of the year. Tolu?
Let's touch on investors' confidence, which is something that remains very important. Now we're returning to January to December budget circle, which many say shows some certainty in our budgeting and some of our processes in this country. Now, what are your expectations? Because we need to start projecting for 2020, it's a few days away in the market. Do you see investors turning back, even at this time when government tries to discourage banks and everybody from funding or doing deals and businesses with treasury bills and other government securities?
What we have seen in the market in the last 2 weeks suggests that confidence, has, crept back into the market, but not very strong, not very high. In the sense that from 2 weeks ago, we have seen stocks rallying and then key investors making profits by taking them, off their investment. That can only happen if they have come back to the market. 2 days ago, we saw major banks, their stocks were turned around, and the manufacturing sector and technology sector also came alive. What happened is that as they are expecting the Santa Claus rally, those of them holding stocks in most of all other sectors would like to sell them off and bring to the financial subsector, which always steady itself for the Santa Claus or rally at the close of the year. And don't forget, the banks have equal marginal and end of the year close, which is December. And so expecting this, many of them would like to close in the positive territory. So I think that investors, especially those who hold big portfolios, they are looking back to the market because stocks and even the bonds pricing, they are relatively very cheap. So that is a big encouragement, to return to the market. Another point is that the central bank has discouraged undue play in the treasury bills market by lowering interest rates around 8-9% against 12-14 that we used to have. So now, many people now know that the capital market holds the sway.
All right, then making the market unattractive, according to Effiong Ekop there. We apologize for the mix-up and visuals there. Effiong Ekop live there from the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Thank you very much. Before we go, let's tell you that crude oil prices continue to enjoy average jumps at trade centers following increased energy demands by Chinese firms. The London market, Brent crude, sells for $65.18. Crude oil price of OPEC basket crude sells for $67.48. That's our show. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Enjoy the rest of your day.